So for sequences, you have, this looks like arithmetic, but it's really actually pronounced arithmetic. So with those sequences, that is when you've got a list of numbers and they are adding or subtracting the same amount each time. So that amount that they're adding or subtracting is called your common difference. Okay, sometimes it's a whole lot easier to look at it, just like the 5, 10, 15, 20. You can look at that and automatically recognize you're adding 5 each time. That means your common difference, which is your D value, so D is equal to 5. Okay, if you have a list of numbers and it's not as easily recognizable, then you can find your common difference by taking your second term and subtracting it from your first term, or A2 minus A1. So if I'm looking at this example right here, it says tell whether the sequence is arithmetic. So if I'm looking at -4, 1, 6, 11, and 16, those are pretty simple numbers that you should be able to look at and say, okay, from -4 to 1, what am I doing? Adding 5. From 1 to 6?
Adding 5.
From 6 to 11?
Adding 5.
And 11 to 16?
Adding 5.
So because that common difference is 5 for every single term, then that does mean that it's arithmetic. Now, if you are decreasing in your sequence, then you're more than likely subtracting. That D will be a negative number. So increasing, you're adding, it's positive. Decreasing, you're subtracting, it's negative. Okay. So we have the first main formula for this section. For arithmetic sequences, there's 2 different formulas you can choose to use. Okay. There's the textbook, which is a sub n equals a1 plus n minus 1 times d. That is going to be, if you Google or search or use a book, that's what is going to pop up. Okay. And this is where your A1 is your first term in your sequence, so your first number. N is the position in the sequence, so it's kind of like X. And then D is your common difference. A sub n is any term. Okay, so if N is similar to X, A sub n is similar to your Y. Okay, so if I just use this for example, this 16 is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th term. So I could say A5 is 16. So that A sub n, that n could be any number. And that's just, A5 is just telling me it's the 5th number in the sequence. Okay. My A1 would be -4. Just for reference of what those variables mean. Okay. So if you're using this formula, that's fine. Or there's a formula that we, it, depending on who the pre-cal teacher is or whoever is teaching you, some use this formula, and this is A sub n is equal to dn plus a naught. And a naught is kind of like a y-intercept. It's similar to, like, if you're adding and subtracting the same amount, it's kind of like a slope, and your a naught is kind of like your y-intercept. Okay, if you want to see it that way. Your a naught is the term that would be before a1. Okay, so you can find that by taking your A1 and subtracting your D. Okay, I personally use this one, but in this next example, I'll show you both ways and you can decide which one you want to use. Okay, so if it says write the rule for the nth term of an arithmetic sequence with the first term of 2 and a common difference of 3, then write the next 4 terms of the sequence. So the first term tells me A1 is equal to 2. And the common difference tells me D is equal to 3. Okay, so if we are using the textbook formula, then A sub n is equal to my A1, which is 2, plus our n minus 1 times your D of 3. Okay, so when you use that formula, you will take that 3 and you will distribute it to the n and the minus 1. So A sub n is equal to 2 plus 3n minus 3. And then you will combine your like terms, 2 minus 3. So A sub n is equal to 3n minus 1. Okay. If you are using the other formula, then once you find your A1 and your D, you can find A naught by taking 2 and subtracting 3. It's like you're backtracking in the sequence. Okay, and 2 minus 3 is -1. So if A sub n is equal to dn plus A naught, that's going to be 3n minus 1. There is no distributing, combining like terms. It just is what it is once you find A naught. Okay? So I personally prefer this one. Okay? That's what I'm going to do the rest of the examples with. But if you would like to do all of them with this, you can too. You get the same answer either way. Okay? Now it says write the next 4 terms of the sequence. So if I start, if A1 is 2, then I'm finding A2, A3, A4, and then also A5. Well, if my common difference is 3, that tells me I'm adding 3 each time because it's positive. So if A1 is 2, what's A2?
5.
Because I would do 2 plus 3. So if A2 is 5, what's A3?
8.
What's A4?
11.
And A5?
14.
Very simple. Okay? We good with that? Okay. So then we have write the rule for the nth term of an arithmetic sequence, then find A15. This is typically what your problems are going to look like. I give you the sequence, and then I specify which value to find. If I give you the sequence, your first step is always to find your common difference. So if I have 4, 9, 14, and 19, what is my common difference?
5.
I'm adding 5 each time, so it's a positive 5. What is my A1? Okay, so once I find that, I can easily find my A naught by subtracting 4 minus 5. You're going in the opposite direction to backtrack of what would have come before the 4, which would be
-4.
-1. So A sub n is equal to dn plus A naught. So that's going to give me 5n minus 1. You good with that? And then A15, what is that telling me? N equals 15. Good. So A15 is equal to 5. I replace n with 15 minus 1. So A15 is equal to 74. 5 times 15 would be 75. Minus 1 gives you 74. Okay, we good with that? So then it says, one term of an arithmetic sequence is A19 equals 48. The common difference is 3. Write a rule for the nth term. So I might not know my A1, but I do know my AN, and I know that n equals 19. And I know my common difference is 3. Okay? So if my formula is A sub n equals dn plus A naught, I can plug in what for AN?
A19.
Which is equal to
48.
48. And then my D is 3, and my N is 19. So then my only unknown is A naught. So I can easily solve for that. I can multiply 3 times 19 to get what? 57. So to solve for A naught, I'm going to subtract 57. 48 minus 57 is going to give me -9. So if I know my common difference and I now know my A naught, I can come up with my formula. A sub n is equal to what? If this is my formula, 3n minus 9. Good. Okay, we good with that? All right. So now when we write a rule when you have two non-consecutive terms, okay? This is when you are going to have to come up with a system of equations. Okay, and this goes back to chapter 2. All right. These instructions come from the textbook formula. I'm going to do it a different way because I'm going to use the other formula. Okay, which is the main reason I'm redoing this video. Okay. So if I have A8 equals 21 and A27 equals 97, this is telling me my AN and N is equal to 8. And this is telling me my AN and N is equal to 27. Okay. So whenever I put it together, remember your formula is A sub n is equal to dn plus A naught. I don't know my D, I don't know my A naught. Okay, so I'm going to get two equations from these two terms. So I'm going to have 21 equals, if I multiply D times my N of 8, D times 8 is just going to be written as 8D plus A naught. Okay, do we understand how I got that? So then A27 equals 97 is going to become 97 equals what? 27D plus A naught. Okay, now if you think back to a system of equations, you could solve substitution or you could solve elimination. Okay, elimination is going to be easier with arithmetic because you have A naught and A naught that are already a +1. Remember with elimination, you want opposite coefficients, so the same number, opposite signs. We've got the same number because they both have a coefficient of 1. I just need one of those to be negative. Okay, so I can make the second equation or the first equation be multiplied by -1. I'm going to copy down the 21 equals 8D plus A naught. The second equation becomes -97 equals -27D minus A naught. Now that those two variables are opposite coefficients, they will cancel. 1 minus 1 is 0. So then 21 minus 97 is going to give me what? -76. No. -70 what? 21 minus 97. Y'all all have a calculator right in front of y'all.
-72.
Okay. So then 8D minus 27D is going to give me what? Some of y'all, I could write all the wrong stuff and that's all you're writing down. You have to type in your calculator too. Participation in the notes is what matters. All right, how am I going to solve for D?
Divide.
So D equals 4. So I know my common difference is 4. Now I can plug that in and get my A naught. Okay, so 21 equals 8 times 4 plus A naught. 8 times 4 is 32. So then if I'm solving for my A naught, I'm going to subtract 32. 21 minus 32 is what?
-11. Correct.
Okay. So then what is my rule for this situation? A sub n is equal to, if it's dn plus A naught, that's going to give me 4n minus 11. Are we good with that? Do we understand that? Now, this year, since my black day, I only had an hour with one of my classes. We took out arithmetic means, so we don't have to do that for this year. I already took it off of y'all's test also. Okay. Now, the next two problems we are going to do though. It says, which term is 89 in the sequence 23, 29, 35, 41? Okay. So I'm not asking you to sit there and add until you get 89. We're going to use our formula to solve for what term it is. Okay. So first, we need to know our common difference. What is happening between each term?
Adding 6.
So my common difference is 6. What's my A1?
23.
So then, if I want to find my A0, I would take that 23 and subtract 6 to go backwards, and that would leave me with
No.
17.
17.
23 minus 6 is 17. So then my equation, A sub n is equal to 6n plus 17. Okay? So if I want to know which term is 89, is 89 going to go in the spot of A sub n, or is that going to be an n? Which term is 89? That's going to be, I'm not asking what is the 89th term. I want to know where does 89 fall in the sequence, okay? So I'm solving for n. I would subtract 17. 89 minus 17 is what? Divide by 6 and n equals. So it is the 12th term. We good with that? So then see if you can work through the next one. It's no longer asking you your A sub n. It's telling you find A12. If that negative 16, negative 13, negative 10, negative 7 is your sequence, work through that to see what that term is. Oh, you need to turn it on.
Oh, I can go grab it real quick.
Okay, what's your rule for this sequence? Should be 3n minus 19. Yes? You're able to get that? So then when it says find A12, what am I doing? Plugging 12 in. So what is A12? 17. Okay, were we able to all do that on our own? We have questions on that? So that's going to be the end of arithmetic.